The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media monster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Jinno RUFINO. This is Full Court Report.
All right, welcome to the Full Court Report. It is another new episode of our show. It's nice to be back, guys. Here we are, four men in four different parts of the world talking about Game of Thrones, which is starting, of course, tonight. Well, no, we're going to be doing NBA basketball, playoff basketball, and I have first quarter duty, so let me go ahead and put 12 minutes on the clock as we take over quarter number one here. Now, I'm going to talk about the Warriors. They defeated the Rockets earlier today in Game 4 of their series, routing them by 27. They went on to hit a record of 21 three-pointers in the game, but really the big story was the injury to Steph Curry. He went down right before halftime, did not return, MRI scheduled for tomorrow. But, I mean, man, up 3-1. I don't know. Do we assume he's probably done for this series, considering it is a knee injury? Let's go ahead. I know it's a little premature, but to assume things.
Let me just say that poor Steph Curry, that may have been the most unlucky injury I've ever seen from a player in the playoffs in recent memory. Given that,
at least it wasn't Patrick Beverley.
Right, he slides on a sweat spot or a wet spot on the court. He does the splits, his knee buckles, whatever, and then he's done. And I mean, the funny thing is that he hits one of seven or whatever it is from downtown. Yet the team still makes 21 threes for the contest and sets a new playoff record. So clearly, these Warriors don't need him right now. I think that the psychological advantage of having him on the court was obvious. I mean, they put up 41 points in the third quarter, and Draymond and Clay were just connecting on basically everything that they threw up from outside. So this Warriors team, I thought, looked a little vulnerable after Game 3, and I thought momentum might have swung a little back in Houston's favor. But, man, just having Steph out there on the court, even if it is only for 19 minutes or so, seems to really just give these Warriors the competitive advantage that they need. But, yeah, man, long term, I'm now a little worried for this team if he can't get back to 100%, if they're going to have more freakish injuries come Steph's way. I just don't know. I just don't think you can risk it in this opening round now that they are up 3-1.
Oh, definitely. I mean, on average, a knee injury, if it's a grade 1 MCL sprain, again, we're not doctors and it's way premature, but let's just kind of grow with the, with the going.
Doctors. I've got my PhD in basketball.
with the going rate of a grade 1 MCL sprain is a week to 2 weeks. Grade 2 is 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, that puts him, almost out of the entire thing. Torn MCL, of course, obviously season over, but he's not there. He was in good spirits. He was seen smiling, laughing, a bag of popcorn, exiting the arena today's. Obviously, right. Noticeable limp, clearly. Yes, let's assume that he's done for the series. It might be the best thing for this team, but this is where that number one seed kicks in well, because then you hope that the Clippers and Portland will have this long, drawn-out, tiring series, would be best for the Warriors at this point, and then let's see if he can come back for round 2.
Yeah, regardless of the prognosis, that he should not play at home in Game 5. No doubt about it. Now, with that being said, I really want to see now, as long as it's a mild injury, I want to see what this kid's made of. I really do, and I think he's made of a lot here. He's already the best player in the world. At least he's shown it this year. Can he fight through an injury and lead this team to a title? You want to talk about a cherry on top this season on everything else is going on? If fighting through an injury and be able to still win the chip, that would be just, the ultimate thing.
Is this a Warriors compliment coming from you?
Yeah, absolutely.
They do.
Yes,
that would be
absolutely.
awesome.
I will also say this. Let's not forget, they're a 73-win team. Even taking Steph out of certain games, this team is still a bottom-tier great team. They're still a bottom-tier great team without Steph. So this team can still go a long way with Steph missing a few games. Clearly, when they get to the top rung of the playoff pyramid, he has to be playing every game now.
Right. And again, that's where that number one seed in really kicks in.
Good.
Yeah, adversity is good. This might be the test the team needs. I mean, clearly the Warriors was a team that many predicted would just coast right through the playoffs. This might even be kind of like not a wake-up call because it's not like they're asleep, but just a nice little kind of test for them to be good-spirited about and go out there and have some fun with. Because, again, they've got the series lined up for them. They don't have OKC. They don't have the Spurs in the second round. So it might not be that big of a deal if Curry gets out. Let's take the average of the two, sprain grades 1 and 2, let's say 3 weeks. He could be back early, maybe mid-second round, but they've got a squad good enough to be able to kind of persevere, whether it be the Clippers or Portland.
Where Steph doesn't get let off the hook is that regardless of who they face in the second round, he's going to have to chase around CP3 or Damian Lillard, so he's going to have his work cut out for him.
But generally, they do put Clay. They do put Clay on those guys.
Yeah,
so
again,
I think
he's going to have to chase JJ Redick or McCollum. I mean, it's still there's still work for Steph. Steph's not going to get off lightly the way you can't hide in the way you maybe would if they happen to sort of play a team without a sort of stronger backcourt.
As you said earlier, 19 minutes of Steph just being on the court really does kind of spark this team. And whether he's going to be a defensive liability, just the presence of your MVP, your back-to-back MVP, would be massive for this team.
Would you risk putting him on the court if he's still not 100%? Because I don't think he's going to be 100% for several weeks. And
it's the playoffs, man. He's got all the time in the world to feel completely. Yeah, you got to suck it up. I mean, Chris said it. Yeah, I want to see what this kid's made out of.
That's true.
I mean, he popped right back up. He went down. He popped right back up. I mean, didn't puss around on the ground at all. I think he's a tough kid. He's going to do fine.
They didn't need a wheelchair to pick him up, right? So I mean,
this is TV revenues, guys. TV revenues is helping him right now because they want to spread out all these damn games. He's going to have all this time to rest, and it'll only be like 5 games later.
But this could really add
right now. But
this could really add to the legend of Steph Curry if he manages to come back from this and lead this Warriors team into another title. I mean, this could really change the story. Because remember last year that they didn't suffer any major injuries all of last year, and they were able to walk away with a title. And now they're facing this adversity, which could be a good thing for them. And
how quickly had the tables turned.
But let's see. I mean, let's see what Curry's made out of.
This injury really becomes a factor for not only Golden State but for everyone across the NBA and even history, because the books are being written right now. Is if Steph or these Warriors happen to be down in a series, we still haven't seen what this team's made of because we haven't seen them down yet. I mean, if they get down 2-1 in the second round because of Steph's injury and the Clippers or Blazers sort of, have that advantage going home, or maybe they get to the conference finals against the Spurs and Steph re-injures something. I mean, it's once they're down 2-1, 3-2, whatever the case may be, that's when we have to find out if Steph can sort of play through the pain, if he's still going to be effective at 70%, 80%, whatever the case may be. But for now, against these Rockets, you don't risk it. The Rockets haven't shown anything remotely close to being able to take down these Warriors. So they have an extra cushion, which is a beautiful thing to have with Clay firing and obviously with Sean Livingston stepping up and being able to give them valuable minutes and production. So, I mean, I would start Draymond Green at point guard next game and just basically see what happens. And, just go out there and ball and have fun and take care of business at home and get some rest. And, then see who your opponent is and hope like hell the Blazers are able to push the Clips to 7 games and then just see what happens.
They need to smack each other around. Dubs Nation needs those two teams to smack each other around.
Now, sticking with this series and how it just already seems like the Warriors are going to take this one out, it would have been a sweep. Excuse me.
Should have been a sweep
today. Yeah, should have been a sweep today because the NBA said that the James Harden buzzer beater in the last game shouldn't have counted. But again, one of the more
Queen of England had balls, she'd be the king. Come on, man.
Right. Now, one of the more popular vines that kind of went around about that shot wasn't really the make, but it was the reaction of the Houston Rockets bench. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but it made the news kind of everywhere. So I'm assuming you did. You saw Dwight Howard not looking thrilled about it. You saw Corey Brewer probably giving one clap there. Terrence Jones looked pissed. The only happy guy was that white guy, the European dude. I forgot his name, but Montejunas or whatnot. But I mean, is that kind of just where this team is checked out? Is this we don't like James Harden? Did you guys get any read into that?
I mean, A and B are correct. Both yes and yes. They checked out and they don't like James Harden.
Look, yeah, Mo, you're right on the money. The body language experts chimed in and just basically said this Rockets team is a mess right now. They clearly have personality clashes. Nobody believes in James Harden as their leader. I mean, it took a monster game from Harden for them just to be competitive, and the Warriors didn't have Steph. And then it took an offensive foul and a Michael Jordan push and a step back for them to be able to sort of seal the victory. So it's a case of, yeah, man, if you're, on this Rockets roster and you're looking at James Harden getting all the love, and not basically burdening all of the criticisms, Dwight Howard seems to be unfairly dragged into any time that something goes wrong when maybe it's not sort of Howard's fault as much as it is Harden's. It's a case of, what are you cheering about? You're cheering about a 3-1 deficit or at that point a 2-1 deficit?
Yeah, but I mean, this is your first game back home. I mean, these series, they shift, they shift environments, and you should be more happy about it. I think it's not really checking out that we've lost. It's, I hate that guy who just made that shot. I bet you Jason Terry takes that shot, they cheer him. Patrick Beverley takes that shot, they cheer him.
In the heat of the moment, they might have also thought that was a blatant push-off, and they thought Harden had just cost them the game with an offensive foul and to sort of react that
man,
way.
I don't agree. 3 guys looked like they were frowning while the rest of the team were thrilled about it.
By winning the game means they had to go back to Oakland. These guys had golf reservations in Houston, and they had to stand there. But I will say this. There's a huge difference between these two teams. When the Rockets hit a big shot, no one on their benches cheer. When Dubs hits a big shot, not only do the Dubs sideline cheer, but the opponent sideline cheers too. That's the big difference of the game. This is crazy, man. The Rockets have checked out, but guess what? They're stuck with Harden. Bottom line, they have to figure out what to do with him.
But I mean, come on. Last season, when the Rockets were making their comeback, James Harden spent a lot of time on the bench in kind of critical minutes. He was very supportive of his team, if I recall. So it is kind of odd that this has kind of flipped around and that he hits the big
season,
shot.
Though, Mo. I mean,
I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
It's a really curious case, though, to sort of see not so much that this Rockets team has essentially conceded the series, because, they've come back from big deficits before and they've got the talent to be able to do it. And if there's no Steph, they could maybe steal a game in Oakland. But it's a case now where I just don't think they have the motivation or the urgency or the hunger. I mean, you talk about the third quarter of game 4. I mean, this team lost by 20 points in that one quarter, and they were at home. They should have protected home. They should have been diving for loose balls. Instead, I think they're all standing around, and they all thought they were going to be swept when they weren't swept. They all sort of thought, well, if we're not going to get swept, we're just going to get embarrassed in the next game because the Warriors don't sort of take these sort of losses lightly. So, it's just a sort of, really weird case, a weird team at a weird time with a really strange leader. Harden's not a clear-cut leader, and I think they're feeling the effects of that now.
I disagree a little bit. I mean, I see what you're saying. I agree with maybe 80% of it. I just don't think the whole team is on the same page with being okay with losing to the Warriors. Like, I don't think that's something that they go, oh, okay, you know what, we're supposed to be swept. I really do believe
but
it's
the Warriors break hearts, man. It's not like the Warriors,
I get it, but these are not children. These are not 5-year-olds.
No,
these are grown adults. They're playing for
Dwight
something.
might be a 5-year-old. I'm not sure.
They're playing for something as individuals as well and not just as a team. I really do believe wholehearted that this has to do with James Harden. I think it's dislike for Harden. That's why they're not.
Agreed.
It's there's the point. Your point is it's soul crushing 2 ways. It's soul crushing in the locker room and against the opponent. And that's why I just don't see this current Houston team being able to do much now or in the future.
Fair enough.
But also,
all right.
if you work with a-holes, you need to suck it up if you're a professional. So keep that in mind.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we have quarter number 2 of our show. You listen to the Full Court Report back after this.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is quarter number 2. Forgot to introduce you guys, so I do know that we're going to Chris Savage in New York City for this quarter, though, buddy. You got 12 minutes, Chris. What's up?
Great. In a first round filled with clunkers of series and games, let's talk about the most exciting series, and that's the Hawks-Celtics, now notched up at 2-2 with the Celtics overtime win today. This series has a lot of excitement, and who would have thought that from a series that includes the Atlanta Hawks? Yay, Hawks, though, ready to finally step up. 3 out of 4 of these games have been highly contested. Again, today's game went to OT after the Hawks blew a 16-point lead. We've seen physicality, including the Celtics' fiery leader, Isaiah Thomas, taking a swing at Dennis Schroeder. I don't even know who Dennis Schroeder is, but okay. And, we've seen just great performances, too. We've seen Isaiah Thomas drop 42 points, 35 of the last 2 games, only 2 turnovers of the last 2 games. We've seen Paul Millsap with 45 today. We've seen a breakout game by Marcus Smart, not just scoring 20 points, but shutting down everyone he defended. Jeff Teague, until today, came back. Jeff Teague was dead this season, and all of a sudden he came back in the first 3 games of the series until, he had a tough game today. So, guys, want to get your feedback on this exciting series because they're few and far between in this first round of the playoffs. What do you think of Hawks Celtics so far?
Isaiah Thomas is a superstar. He's
superstar.
Good Lord, relax. Come on, Jesus.
Come on.
How many superstars are in the league, man?
You got to give credit to this guy, man. You got to give credit to this little guy who has got so much heart in him, and then he just basically, I wouldn't say he carries the Celtics, but he definitely ignites the Celtics. He's able to, pretty much go at will and score at will with these, despite being 5'9", 5'10". He's not very tall, but I just love the fact that this little guy is taking this team as far as he has so far.
Yeah, look, I know we've spoken about Isaiah Thomas and sort of the damage he's done, but I guess for me, the real storyline here is the fact that the Hawks have just continued to basically give up leads and drop games. What are they, up 16 in this one? They go on to lose in overtime. They have Paul Millsap put up a 45-13 night. It's just inexcusable to not feed him the ball in that overtime session. 2 points in the final 5 minutes, or 3 points, whatever it was in the overtime session. Just, I don't know if these Hawks deserve to advance now. I mean, Horford put up 5 points. It's just, I'm not sure if these Hawks really, really do deserve to move on. I mean, is anyone else feeling the same way now? The Hawks should be up 3-1, maybe even have swept them. But the Celtics, resilient, fighting, spirited, and I don't know, man. The Hawks are supposed to be at the party, and somehow they're stuck in the bathroom doing lines of something. Who knows?
Well, I think the few of us chose the Celtics to win this anyway, but or at least the majority of the 4 of us. However, I mean, it is now a 3-game series, so it's not like they're out of it. I agree with you, boy. It took a monster game from Millsap just to kind of keep them here in this game, and it should be their series. They should be in much more and better control here, but. Listen, it's a 3-game series.
Well,
they still got the home
the
court
signs
advantage.
Aren't good.
Horford's not going to score 5 points again.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
no,
but what I
Millsap's
do
not going to
like
put up
is-
45 either, but
Right, but
Sure.
Millsap did put up 45, but he didn't do anything towards the end of most of the fourth quarter or in overtime, and it's not for lack of trying. Marcus Smart, as they call him in Boston, shut him and anyone on him down, Corver, whoever. Marcus Smart shut them down, and you know what I like the most is how fired up Isaiah Thomas is, because when your best player is this fired up, that's what the playoffs is all about, and he is fired up.
And how about that
To
post-game
Boston-
press conference with his kids?
Yeah. I mean, he's trying to do a Steph
I
Curry.
think Boston, though, and Isaiah Thomas's whole career is maybe reflective of this, but Boston seem to have this underdog mentality that I think works in their advantage. I think the second they're favorites, I don't know if I like the Celtics in that position. I think as long as they're underdogs, they make it more entertaining because they like coming from this position of being discounted or discredited, whatever the case may be. And, for them to sort of lock down Millsap in this way. But I think the overall thing for me is the signs aren't good for Atlanta. I mean, in a best-of-3 series now with the momentum in Boston's favor, it's like you need to see more coming from their playmakers. You need to see more from Teague. I mean, Teague is not going to shoot 4 from 18 every night.
No.
But if he does this again, they're going to put themselves in another position where they're going to potentially lose this series. And, after Atlanta won 60 games last year and then sort of, were really fluctuating this year, I just thought that they had, more front court talent and had the, poise and the experience to get by Boston. But again, now that they've dropped these games, I don't know if I want them in the next round. I would rather see a spirited, fighting, swinging Boston team moving on. Because again, Atlanta has to prove their worth to advance, and so far they're not doing that.
I mean, come on. This is a 4-5 series, a 4-5 seed series with teams with identical records. It's not like it was supposed to be the Hawks running away with this. I think again, many of us pegged that the Celtics will pull this one off, but it's right there, man. 2 games apiece. Let's just kind of embrace it, enjoy it. I'm sure we all are. It's a 3-game series. It's going to go all the way down the line.
Far, as Chris said, by far the most entertaining series, and I hope we see more of these games. I think them going down to the wire, them coming down to fourth quarter, 1-2 possessions, big shots, big performances, 40-point games from one end, 40 points, from a player on the opposing team. I mean, these are the sorts of playoff performances that help shape careers and legacies and help make the game much more entertaining. And we thought we'd see more of this for the fact that the, Celtics and Hawks are doing this, and it's series tied, and it is now a best of 3. I mean, I really, really am glad this has happened. I would say this might even be saving the playoffs so far in terms of entertainment value.
Sure. I think a criticism, though, of the Hawks should be kind of pointed to a team like the Raptors, who are supposed to expect it to be kind of breezing right through this first round, and they find themselves in a 2-2 series, and of course we'll talk about them
the Hawks
also a little bit later.
Quite collapsed over the first 4 games in the same way. Sure, granted, I give them that, but I don't know, man. Chris, what's going on with these Raptors, man? Like, what's
let's talk about it, because Toronto is in trouble, and our very own Mo Twister talked about their playoff woes, and it's happening again, and I'm wondering if it's in their head now. But you want to talk about a 2-2 series? This is the most uncompetitive 2-2 series I've ever seen. All 4 games have been blowouts. There's, I think, a 14-point differential in each of the games. One team usually just doesn't show up and quits by the end of the fourth quarter. The main narrative was if Paul George got help, the Pacers have a chance to win. Well, in game 4, he got help, but Paul George offensively really didn't have a great game. What he did have, Mr. Paul George, is that really aggressive defense and shut down DeMar DeRozan once again. And DeMar DeRozan made the comment saying, "We just stink right now when it comes to me and Kyle, because him and Kyle Lowry, they stink right now. 30% they're shooting from the field, and Paul George, if anything he's doing, it's whether he scores big or not, he is playing that crazy defense. And the Pacers overall have been a strong defensive team. So, guys, are the Raptors done, or is a 3-game series here too? The Raptors win 2 out of 3 with a home court advantage. They're in it too. What do you guys think?
It's a crazy series in that I don't think that these Raptors were basically going to perform in the way they have. I mean, they've let themselves down. They left their city down. I mean, being 2-2 against the Pacers, a number 2 seed shouldn't be challenged in this way. And if they are challenged in this way, then it often suggests that either their regular season record is a little fraudulent, a little overachieving, a little overhyped, or it's a case of they've basically built this offense around 2 guys that don't know how to deliver in a playoff system. And now, if they can somehow get pushed to 6, even 7, I think the advantage is actually with the Pacers. I think they have the psychological advantage. I think they're going to go into Toronto now supremely confident. And I really think that the Raptors have to be super careful here, because if they drop this game 5, which may actually swing the series one way or the other, I think whoever wins game 5 is going to go on to win this series. Let me just put it that way. And it's going to be a fight. And I really want to see both teams, to use the cliche, show up here. But I'm going to have to side with the Pacers showing up, because it seems like they just showed more urgency this series, and it seems like they're the ones actually playing like they're defending something, versus maybe the Raptors thought this was going to be a cakewalk, it was going to be handed to them. But what a rude awakening for these guys. And for DeRozan to just say, "Hey, we stink," I don't want to hear how much you smell. I want to hear how you're going to correct this. I don't want to worry about what you've done. I'm worried about what you will do. And so for him to sort of just say, "Oh, I'll put it on my back, we stink," well, what does that mean? You're going to keep shooting 17-footers and keep clanking them? You're going to actually change your style of play here? Like, come on, Raptors. It's like, wake up. But
does Paul George have teammates that can help him win 2 more games? Like Hill and Mahimi, are we going to expect that 2 more games?
Maybe he doesn't need it. Maybe
but he does.
He haven't won out of the games.
They haven't won. They haven't won without him putting someone else putting up a big game. And in this case, it was 2. It was Hill and Mahimi who both scored over 20 points. So I mean, can they really do it for 2 more games? That's the question. I don't know if they can.
I don't think so. But as kind of what Brad brought up, I mean, this is kind of a hit to the dome if you're the Raptors, man. You struggled through the first round against a Pacer team. Boy, you might get your ass handed to you come second round to what possibly might be, I say, a Miami team, a much more experienced Miami team. So I think the Raptors are in trouble, not just in this series, but if they find a way to squeeze this one out, again, I just don't see how this team can go deep in the playoffs with the style of game they play and with the roster that they have.
With we talked about it all season long that the Raptors kind of overachieved in the regular season and they're not built for the playoffs. And I think we're seeing it now. I mean, these two guys, Lowry and DeRozan, all-stars.
Superstars, you said. I said superstars last month. Excuse me. Did somebody just get a demotion? You said superstar.
You know what the best of this, though, really quickly, Gino, I'll let you get back to your point, but this pertains to you, Gino. How great is it going to be for you when your Lakers give a max deal to this DeMar DeRozan?
That's right.
Oh, no.
That's right. Can't wait for that day.
Handcuff themselves.
Well, I mean, the way he's playing right now. I mean, it doesn't deserve a max contract, right?
No,
I mean,
you're
not seeing you're not even seeing what made him an all-star in this series. You saw one good game from him so far, but I really do think that they overachieved in the regular season, and I think it was kind of in their heads entering the playoffs that they never really had success in the postseason, and I think that kind of has a mental block in them. And so if they manage to get out of the first round, I think they will actually be okay come seconds because they're going to get the monkey off their back.
I mean, they have to be really careful. Just sort of squeezing by Indiana is not a positive sign. I mean, I think we need to see back-to-back monster performances by their backcourt for anyone to be convinced that this team can challenge in the second round, let alone the conference final should they make it that far. So, I mean, if you're Miami or you're Charlotte in this instance, I mean, you've got to be looking at it going, well, if we can beat this, if we can win our first round opponent, we're really setting ourselves up for a great chance of getting to the conference final. So I think the Raptors, the fate's in their hands. They have home court advantage, but I need to see back-to-back games from Lowry and DeRozan. One game's not enough, and they need to play together, hot in the same contest for me to be, what are they, 20 combined points in a sort of must, or what was a vital sort of game 4. It's just, the signs just aren't good, man. I just don't know. Again, I'm not in the locker room. I can't tell you what the atmosphere is like, but I don't imagine they're all, high-fiving each other, acting like the Golden State Warriors right now.
Sure.
Kyle Lowry, he's going to step up. Warriors in 7. Here's my prediction. Whoever wins game 7 wins the series.
All right, let's got to take a break. When we come back, we have a halftime show. Don't go away. Listen to Full Court Report.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Finito Hanson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel rough that you didn't get the Best Import award?
I was Best Import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do?
I'm not changing nothing.
Tell us, Leland, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. It's halftime. This is when we move away from basketball, talk a little pop culture. Now, today's topic is our favorite duos, whether it be TV, movie, hey, maybe a little music. Kind of in light. Yeah, there you go. Kind of in reference and tribute to Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan tanking it up. We're going to talk about some good duos. So, What do you got? I'll start with Brad over in Sydney, Australia. What do you got, my man?
Oh, man, when it comes to duos, I'm going to throw in a little recent bias here. The little comedy stretch run that Key and Peele recently had to, basically brought their stock all the way up. They're one of my favorite comedy duos. I love the characters they have. Their sort of 80s fitness skit is one of my all-time favorites. These guys, real chameleons, can do a number of roles. I'm really looking forward to their movie, Keanu, that's coming out. When it comes to duos, Key and Peele, man, those guys crack me up every time. And can't get enough. I missed their show already. And like I said, recent bias. But you know what, man? Screw it. I'm going with them.
Their NFL skits when they have the player introductions are one of the best in the business, man. I love that. And they always end it with a great one at the end. What was that?
You need to check them out. I mean, anyone listening to this, if you don't watch Key and Peele or you haven't seen their show, man, please. Go out of your way, make some time, and enjoy their skits, and let us know what your favorites are, because everyone's going to have a different favorite. But man, when they're on the money, I don't think there's anyone better.
Yes, if you haven't seen them, you're dead to me. So Gino RUFINO, what about you? What do you got?
surprise, surprise, I'm going to actually choose Chewbacca and Han Solo.
I knew that was
that or
coming.
CP3O and R2D2, right? Yeah, I knew there had to be a Star Wars reference.
It had to be, right? I mean, you really only hear one person talking. Well, you hear the other one making noise, and then he seems to be the only one who understands Chewbacca, and it's just fun. It's just a fun kind of a duo. He's more, I guess, Chewie's more of a sidekick to Han Solo, but I do enjoy their scenes, even though you really only understand what Han is saying.
Yeah, no, I knew you were going to go Star Wars. I just didn't know who. There was a lot of choices to go with there.
Yeah.
So nice, man, nice. Thought you were going to go with Qui-Gon Jinn and the young Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, but okay, cool. All right, Mo Twister, what do you got?
Oh, man, I was debating whether movies or TV for my answer. I mean, for movies, I was thinking Back to the Future with McFly and Doc Brown. But then
Which today would be creepy. That would be a creepy duo in today's society.
Oh, absolutely. But I'll go with something more recent of a reference. I'm going to go Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, bitch.
Nice.
Of the Breaking Bad fame. Those two guys were, again, maybe a little creepy, too. You had an old guy hanging out with this young one. But I just thought it was a great dynamic, great chemistry. It just kind of worked well together. When they disliked each other, it was still good too. So yeah, no, White and Pinkman, bitch. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, bitch. So I'll throw a couple out there. One movie, one TV, and one music, just to throw them out there, guys. For me, the movie one is Lethal Weapon. Riggs and Murtaugh. He's black. I'm mad. Together, they're bad. Love the Lethal Weapon 2. 4 movies. I'm glad they stopped at 4, unlike Die Hard, which kept on going and going and going. For me on TV, it's The Wire. It's Avon Barksdale and Stringer Bell, the two of them, the powerful drug dealers, leading the way and controlling the east side of Baltimore. And then for me in music, I'm not a big Southern rap fan, but they're just so solid. And it's Outkast and it's Andre 3000 and Big Boy. So those are my 3, just throwing it out there in all different genres. Do you guys have any more?
Chris, I think what we need to do is we need to send like a little highlights reel, like a little package of all these duos at work, and send them up to the Raptors and let these guys know that this is how they need to perform, right? This is the kind of chemistry they need. This is the kind of talent they need to display. Because man, I know it's not supposed to be about basketball, but we come back to this Kyle Lowry, DeRozan sort of letdown in this opening round, and it's like, you guys need to get back to being Chewbacca and Han Solo. You guys need to sort of bring the flair like Key and Peele. You guys need to basically deliver on point like Dre and Big Boy. So I don't know, man. I mean, entertainment's littered with sensational duos. So I mean, I could bore everybody, with a number of duos. So I'm not going to do it here. But Kevin Arnold and Paul Pfeiffer growing up was maybe my favorite duo because The Wonder Years is one of my favorite shows. So I thought those two, those two were sensational.
Yeah, but better than Kevin and Winnie. That was a duo too. Better than Kevin and Winnie Cooper.
Yeah, no, you needed a wingman, not a girl. Like I mean,
okay, fair.
You're talking couples. You're talking couples, not duos.
The best duo has to be Winnie and the bathroom lotion, the bottle that I had there, because that was the best duo.
Man.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to go with like Michael Scott and Dwight Schrute from The Office. I think those two guys together are just
solid.
Are just gold. So whatever.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Great halftime. Great halftime. And of course, we knew Gino Ruffino was going to go Star Wars once again. I think that's 17 to 18 times this season, and he's done a Lakers reference about 43 times.
I know, that's exactly right. I think if you ask that same halftime question next season, the answer is going to be Clarkson and Russell. So yeah,
absolutely.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we have more of the show. Don't go away.
At least I'm consistent.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report, second half, third quarter. And Brad Graham, you are in charge all the way from Sydney, Australia. You got 12 minutes, brother. What's up?
Great, thanks, Mo. Well, we've already discussed Isaiah Thomas's stellar showing, so let's, I guess there's no need to sort of retread that old ground. But that doesn't mean that he was the only point guard who flexed a little playmaking muscle over the weekend. First, Kyrie Irving netted a game-high 26 points and hit the shot of the night, catch-and-shoot corner three with 0.7 seconds on the clock to help the Cavs go up 3-0 in their series. I know we'll get to the rest of that series sort of later in the show. Meanwhile, Michael Jordan was all smiles as the Hornets won their first postseason game since 2002. That result was made possible because Kemba Walker and Jeremy Lin, of all people, combined for 35 points and 11 assists, but they had 0 turnovers to breathe new life into that series versus the Heat. Out west, Damian Lillard put up 32 points in Portland's much-needed victory against the Los Angeles Clippers. And, of course, the one and only Russell Westbrook posted 26 and 15 in Game 3 and then had 25 and 15 just a few hours later in Game 4. So, guys, let me ask you, stellar showings by a bunch of point guards this weekend, but which point guard was the most impressive?
Well, first of all, Russell Westbrook, those are his season averages, it sounds like. But,
yeah, that's the problem. It gets diluted because he's so dominant. That's right.
We take him for granted. Because of Charlotte's history, I'm going to go with Kemba, just what he did down the stretch, but particularly this weekend. I have to give him credit. I have to give the Hornets credit in general. Just love the fact that they're back on the map, and I don't feel good for Jordan because he's a fresh prick, but it's good to see him starting to build that team up, and maybe he won't be so mad that he can't get some wins.
But he was genuinely happy. I mean, that's the thing about Jordan in this contest. I mean, it was surprising to see him actually sort of show some glee. I mean, the monkey's clearly off that team's back now. I mean, what was the first playoff win in 14 years? Yeah. I mean, it seems like the last time they won was when he was still playing. So it's one of those curious cases of Jordan actually sort of showing some genuine emotion here, happy for his guys. But yeah, Jeremy Lin and Kemba Walker, clearly the steady hand that guided this team to that victory at home. We knew that the Hornets were going to be a different team at home, but do we expect them to be this different? 30 and 11 at home, and I guess they proved that. Miami aren't that great on the road, but yeah, okay. So going Kemba, I guess that's a solid pick. You can't go wrong with Kemba. I mean, it's steady playoff hand. What about Jinno and Mo? What did you guys think? Which point guard stood out to you?
I think Kemba was, I guess, more surprising. But I think I like Kyrie's play. I think Kyrie has LeBron has been sensational pretty much all season long, but he needed the other guys to show up. I mean, this I know we're gonna talk about the series more later in the fourth quarter, but he needed some help. Come to playoffs, and Kyrie Irving is the one. It's such a big difference when Kyrie's firing all cylinders.
Kyrie. Yeah, 26 points from him. Solid showing, and it really sort of, I guess, solidifies the Cavs' position at top of the East, especially with the Raptors faltering. And I mean, this was a chance for Kyle Lowry to step up and really sort of add his name to this list, given Isaiah Thomas and these other guards out East had such sort of strong weekends. But Mo, did you have any point guard that stood out? Was Lillard's performance more impressive, that he came back and helped Portland, or was it a case of, you know what, you expect this from these guys? And
I expect it from these guys. I expect it from these teams as they get home for Game 3 and kind of get into the home crowd and stuff, especially in an environment like Portland, because the fan support there's crazy. So I'm gonna pick a guy like Jeremy Lin as kind of my surprising good on you performance. I'm not really a big Jeremy Lin fan at all, in fact, and I was there in New York during the Linsanity time. Never really kind of struck me as anybody, yes, those damn Asians. But Kemba Walker shot 4 for 19 in that game, and he kind of helped them in stretch. Struggled, of course. When we talk about statistics, Jeremy Lin was solid though off the bench with 26 minutes and scoring those 18 points. He had 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Really great production off the bench at home, back, getting them back into this series. So I like Lin. Again, I'd like to, though, acknowledge what Chris said earlier with Russell Westbrook. Man, I feel bad not kind of choosing him, but that's just because it's expected. I mean, what a monster performance by Russ. But
back-to-back games, after they dropped that game 2,
it's ridiculous.
Russ goes down into, obviously, Dallas. I mean, there was a Raymond Felton showing. I mean, he had a solid game 3. But then Russ just demolished everything that, Dallas threw at him. Clearly the best player on the court, flexed and muscle, did all sorts of Russ things at both ends of the court. Crazy. But I guess...
So Charlie Villanueva's not in his head, Brad? Is that pretty safe to say?
I mean, I think we're done with that now. I think any of that little dance routine stuff and any, Charlie V stuff. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but we'll get into this in a little bit too. Russ barking at one of these sort of front row seat patrons and then getting teed up getting fined for it in retrospect by the NBA. But I mean, I watched that game live, and the way Russ was behaving, it was like there was no way he was going to let Dallas back in this series, and he was just sort of commanding on both sides of the court. So really impressive from Russ. And again, we're at a really uncomfortable position, much like I guess we are with LeBron a lot of the times. We just expect him to put up ridiculous numbers, and when he doesn't, we criticize him, and when he does, we go, just another night from Russ.
Yes,
So,
been there, done that, seen that before. No worries.
All of that. He's in the MVP conversation, one of the best 3 guards in basketball. What do you do? So here, I just want to focus a little bit on the Hornets and the Blazers here. I mean, they did return home. We did get stellar, game 3 showings out of both of them. Thankfully, both squads, showed up to the party. So let's start with Portland's backcourt, who struggled early but were extra impressive in game 3. 59 points from Lillard and McCollum combined. Their jumpers were just sort of dropping all night long. They did a lot of incredible things, but they struggled in games 1 and 2. Did you see enough from the Blazers in game 3 to suggest that they can either even the series or maybe even go on to steal this series?
Well, here's the problem. And game 1 and 2 should come as no shock because the Blazers, they're an awful road team. I mean, and now with Blake back with the Clippers, and the Clippers, solid home team without Blake all year. I just felt that the Blazers win this game. They're going to come out. They're going to have energy at home, good home stadium, good home arena that gives them, a lot of support. And Lillard is ready to go. I'm not shocked at all. But at the end of the day, I mean, when they have to play 4 games total in LA, they're going to come up short.
They will, yeah. And this is where we see the lack of depth or, kind of star power, even though they've got the Lillard and, McCollum backcourt. They just don't have anything else there that can kind of get them over the Clippers. Clippers just too
which
deep,
is interesting,
too
though, because they had Plumlee put up, grabbed 19, 20 boards, whatever he did, had a
21,
sensational
right.
21 boards.
Yeah, 9 assists, too.
9
assists.
There you go. He was their primary playmaker, finding guys for jump shots. So what's interesting is that Portland has kind of turned the tables a little bit. And watching this contest, I was really surprised to see how much their bigger lineup did damage against the Clippers. I mean, they went to Hacker Jordan at some point to send him to the line. DeAndre was horrible from the charity stripe. And then, Doc Rivers decided to go in the contest, late in the contest, go with small ball, played Blake at the center position. And that strategy backfired because they had, Portland had the size, controlled the glass, got the pick and pops that they wanted. And all of a sudden, Doc just looked at it like, we lost game 3. We don't care. We're going to move on to game 4 now. But I always find that that's a dangerous sort of attitude to have, given that you don't want to lose momentum. You don't want Portland to get, the series evened up at 2-2. Look at what happened over in, I guess, the East with, Indiana and Raptors. I mean, do you guys worry that Doc's either relying on, this system that might not be as effective, or he's trying to do too much on the fly here, or
not
should
for
the
this
Clippers
series.
be worried? I mean,
not for this series. Just because
game, then you're saying,
it is a one-off game, right? It is because look, Blake Griffin shot 5 for 16 from the field. JJ Redick was 2 for 10. I mean, the guys struggled. Right. Even Chris Paul shot less than 50%. So, when you have that
Portland
kind of
sensational defense, though, they really
absolutely.
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter what kind of defense you put. Blake Griffin's not going to shoot 5 for 16 every game. Yes, the Hacker Jordan stuff does work against the work for the opposing team, but I mean, Redick to shoot 20% from the field, Griffin to go 5 for 16, it just doesn't happen every single night. And when you're a team this loaded versus a team that's not as loaded, it just doesn't work out for you in a long series. And that's where it won't hurt the Clippers here. It will hurt them when they go against the Warriors in the next round.
Here's the deal for this one. The Blazers will not have an answer for Chris Paul. It was quote-unquote an off night from the other night, and he was still good. He's not going to have enough bad games or average games or what have you for the Blazers to beat him. It'll be, again, Mo said it, it'll be the next round that they have to worry about, but they won't have enough answers for Chris Paul.
What was most interesting, though, is that the Clippers were at their most effective when Jordan and Griffin were on the court together, and they were sort of throwing lobs. Like Chris Paul had hit Blake on the elbow, Blake would throw the alley-oop to Jordan, and it was an easy 2. And they ran the play a few times, and Jordan was getting whatever he wanted around the hoop, and then Doc decides to go away from that late in the game just so he doesn't get Griffin fouled. And I mean, watching it from a fan standpoint,
here's a newsflash. We spoke about this before, Brad. Newsflash: Doc Rivers is not a good coach. Period. Right. He won a title with 3 players, and pretty much in their prime, all legendary players, including Kevin Garnett, a super legendary player. Bottom line is, he's not a good NBA coach. He just isn't.
I agree.
Wow.
But but you're saying Stotts doesn't have the personnel to help them advance, and so Doc's going to get to the next round.
As much as we all want the Blazers to advance, they just can't.
Right
now,
we all do.
The Clippers.
How far can they push?
I think it's over in maybe 6.
They'd be lucky if they get another game.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. The Clippers right now, they should have, they should smell some sort of blood, knowing that in the next round you have the possibility of facing a Curry-less Warriors. I mean, that alone should really fire them up and try and get the series over with already.
But isn't that
what
knock
you
on this
can't
team?
do is
That's
you
a knock
can't
on
look
this
too
team.
far ahead. Look
They
too
don't
far
smell
ahead,
the
or you're going to
blood.
drop game 4.
Right.
No.
The knock on this
I mean,
team
they've
is
gotta be
they
careful
don't
here.
smell blood. They don't smell blood. They don't have that killer instinct. That's always been the knock on this team.
That's
we'll
interesting.
see.
So any other team, if this was the Spurs, they would obviously take care of business and move on. And we know
The Spurs would take care of business no matter what the situation was. They're the most well-run,
So let me just quickly
well-run
finish
team
off
in the
here.
NBA.
Sure. Okay, coming back to Ross and KD specifically, they got handed fines by the NBA. Durant with his, getting called out first by Carlisle and then taking a big swipe at Anderson's head, getting ejected, first career playoff ejection. We're seeing a lot of these hard fouls and a lot of these fines being handed out by the NBA. Are they coming down too hard on players? Are things being called that shouldn't be called? Are the NBA being too liberal with these stuff? I mean, do we want to see more guys get fouled? Fined for their hard fouls, or where do we sort of stand on the way the NBA has been retroactively sort of dealing out these penalties to players?
Yeah, Chris, I kind of want to throw that one out to you because you're very much a big fan of the hard playoff foul, era, and now that you're seeing a lot of these flagrants being called, a lot of players complaining more about it, like, oh man, that was too hard. Well, maybe back in the day they didn't. Are we seeing fouls harder than from a couple decades ago, or just whistles are quicker?
We're seeing fouls harder and more physicality in these playoffs than we did all regular season, and now it's being doled out. It was much more of a physical era a couple decades ago. I think about Kevin Durant's ejection. He might have not got ejected for that 20 years ago. However, that's a good thing because he essentially took his arm and just took it like a hammer over Anderson's head. Now with his skinny ass arms, he almost broke his arm too doing that, so that was stupid. But the physicality was more 20 years ago. I like that we're seeing physicality, especially in the Hawks Celtics series. I don't know about these stupid penalties at the end either, but you have to protect the players too. That's the next thing. We're kind of that weird middle ground that they have to find.
Fair enough. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have our fourth quarter. Listen to the full court report back after this. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. We are at our fourth quarter now. We're going to go to Jinno RUFINO, who is in Metro Manila, Philippines. Jinno, 12 minutes. All you, buddy.
Thanks, Mo. Bring out the brooms because we got some sweeps, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not talking about the sweeps that American network stations go crazy about. But I'm talking about sweeps 4-0. No surprise for me, especially for this one, the Spurs versus Memphis. Probably the most boring series I've ever seen in my life in the postseason. But it has to be. I mean, was the worst matchup I've ever seen.
I didn't catch a minute of it.
It was a decimation from the start.
I mean, even Popovich wasn't too happy. Well, I guess he was happy, but I mean, he voiced out that this is what's going to be. This is going to be pretty much a slaughter, and they didn't hold back. And fine, they went for it. It was a clean sweep in the final game, 116-95. I mean, none of these games were close.
That was the closest game, I think, right?
Yeah. And the funny thing was, Game 4 had that 18-minute blackout. I was wondering, did the Grizzlies turn off the lights and pretend no one was home? Like, is it one of those cases of, hey guys, can we just sneak out, through the side door here and not have to finish this contest? But
considering that the Grizzlies had a 4-game blackout, sure, why not?
Right. One of those drunk blackouts. You got no memory of it whatsoever. But isn't it interesting that Dave Yeager, the Grizzlies coach, he got super freaking emotional in the press conference post game for a team that got swept, for a guy that went into the series knowing he stood no chance. I was really, really surprised and then really impressed with the way that he conducted himself and the way he just let all his emotions out, and the fact that I really want my coach to care as much as he cared. I would play for that guy in a heartbeat, even though they got spanked, even though they had no chance in the series. To watch him, and I don't mean to say this in a condescending fashion, but he was so proud of his guys, and I have to side with him. I really liked the fact that the Grizzlies didn't lay down. They didn't do what we would have expected from them, which is they're professionals. They showed up and they went to work. They just got outclassed, outmatched.
Can we call them the anti-Rockets? The anti-Rockets. There's a new name.
Yeah, no, you're right.
If the Rockets had half of their tenacity, maybe that series would be a little bit different.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
No,
still
I mean,
Spurs.
and again, I think we, despite the sweep, despite everything that unfolded, I think we have to give some credit to the Grizzlies, who knew they were outmatched going into this, but they just never gave up. They never laid down. I mean, Randolph and these guys really tried to punch above their weight, knocked down on their butts more times than I care to remember. But you know what? Pop said it was unfair from the start, and that's what it was. But what is it now? Pop has set the NBA record for most sweeps in a 7-game series.
He just surpassed Phil Jackson.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, again, another Pop record, and it's one of those cases of no one's going to question now how good these Spurs are. They're really, really taking care of business. But I guess, the less time we have to spend talking about Grizz, maybe the better, right? Jinno, what?
Yeah. I mean, it might be for a few years.
Yeah,
just because this might have been the worst playoff team roster we've seen in a really, really, really long time. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. I didn't get a chance to kind of chime in, but yeah, absolutely. So much respect for the Grizzlies, for the heart that they've shown. I mean, how often you get Jordan?
A moral victory.
Yeah,
it was.
Absolutely.
If there's anything, it was a moral victory because they.
Now we're counting him in the playoffs. Great.
Well, no, I'm just saying there are guys on this team that would never get the minutes in a playoff atmosphere. Jordan Farmar these days going to get 30 minutes a game? Of course not. So the fact that he was able, this team is just so gutted, and they just made the most out of it. So yeah, I mean, kudos to them. This is the only one of those moral victories that I'm going to give. Okay, go ahead. All right, anyway, let's
talk about another. Let's talk about another sweep. As we were recording this episode, the Cavs just completed a sweep of the Detroit Pistons, 101-98 in Game 4 to close.
What is Stan Van Gundy complaining about right now?
Who knows? But he complains about everything. But this series was again, as predicted. The Pistons put up a fight in pretty much all the games, but the Cavs were simply too much. I think Kyrie Irving's the way he stepped up in this series and pretty much played. Robin to LeBron's Batman helped out in closing out the Pistons. But I think this series was pretty much what we expected as well. It was a sweep, but every game was pretty close.
Yeah, it's really tough to tell because they played the Pistons. Yeah, they played the Pistons, so it's tough to tell. But one thing I liked out of Kyrie, besides the stat lines of performances, is in a better way, not like a petulant child. He demanded the ball in certain situations from LeBron where he saw a matchup problem, and LeBron fed him the ball, and he took advantage of it. So I saw that a couple times this series, and I really liked what I saw. Now, versus better competition, we'll see it go in effect where it really counts, but hey, that's a great step in the right direction.
I don't even think the competition is going to be much better in the next round. That's why I have the Cavaliers just again dancing into the finals here, as I've said all year long. I mean, listen, they're going to get either the Hawks or the Celtics. They will destroy them, and then absolutely. The Raptors look awful, though we have them pegged for the Eastern Conference Finals. That should be easy work as well. So Cavaliers did what they were supposed to do. They swept this one. They might even sweep the next one, and the one after that. They are the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference. This is all formality.
And we've seen this from LeBron, I think, a couple of times. I can't remember the exact series which has happened, but I know it has happened, where his teams have swept round one, and then they go into round two off 7-8 days rest, and then they just lose. They drop that first game at home, and they put themselves behind the 8 ball. And I wouldn't be surprised if either the Celtics or Hawks advanced, and they steal game one in Cleveland. I think we've seen this before, and I hope that happens so that the second round series is a little more competitive, and LeBron and co wake up and realize that, hang on.
Well, that happens to that happens to a lot of teams. I believe the Warriors. They kind of happened to Warriors in the finals last season as well when they jumped on their home.
But part of the key to that is Kevin Love too. He's had one good game, one bad, or average one good game, one average. So that's part of a big thing they have to focus on.
The Cavs did experiment a little bit too with playing Kevin Love at the 5, and I think we might see a little more of that as they go into the second round. I think that can actually provide them some versatility, and I think that Kyrie Irving being healthy and firing on all cylinders is good for them. I still want to see him. I mean, again, if he's going to be the primary scorer for this team, I think that really helps LeBron. I think it allows LeBron to play traditional point guard, and I think that it actually is going to boost Kyrie's confidence. And I think it gives them more weapons. I mean, if LeBron's having to distribute and do the bulk of the scoring, I think the Cavs can become a one-note song. So to see Kyrie in this series show up against, some pretty competitive, pretty fiery guards and just sort of take it to them. I don't like him shooting 4 from 11 from outside, but he's capable. And, to put up 30 points is nothing to sort of scoff at. And look, this game could have gone either way. Like a couple of these games in this series could have gone either way. Like, no moral victories here for Detroit, but definitely a case of Cavaliers showed who the better team was. And again, the maturity, they closed out. And, off they go to round 2 now, exactly where they want to be, rested and awaiting their next opponent.
And I think it's good.
James.
And I think it's good that the Cavs got a little, I guess, pushed in a sense in every game here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Unlike the Spurs and Grizzlies. Okay, so let's move on now to some news from around the NBA. Again, let's just get this out of the way. Breaking news again. As we were taping this episode, Byron Scott, surprise, surprise, after 2 of the most historic seasons in Los Angeles Lakers history, because
they were historical, right?
the 2 worst seasons in the history of the purple and gold, is not coming back next season. He finished his 2 years in LA, 38 wins and 126 losses.
Nice job, Byron.
How do you come back from that?
He's worse than Tim Floyd. He's worse than Tim Floyd.
I mean, come on. You're a Lakers fan. You knew that was going to happen. That was Kobe's choice, and he was just there to keep the seat warm while Kobe was there. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew it. I mean, this team is a crap team. It's not really as much Byron's fault as it is the GM's fault for this kind of garbage team that they have.
Roster.
Oh, absolutely.
And all the injuries and all the signings. Yeah, I mean, Byron Scott can't be... I think he'll get hired again solely because these guys are far and few between, and there's a few sort of rosters out there that I think he's more suited for.
He's been to the finals, man. He's a product of his crew.
Absolutely. Byron Scott picks some bad teams. He gets put on some bad teams to coach, man. He just gets some crap.
Yeah, he went to the Cavs right after LeBron left.
He gets some straight crap.
One of those guys. But that's another classic case of he inherited a really horrible roster, and so he's sort of asked to do a lot with very little. And I don't think, as much as I don't like him as a head coach with young talent, I think he's still a guy, and again, we saw this in New Orleans, I think he can push veteran guys who have been around the league, who understand his mentality, and, no surprise that he's been fired, but I don't think it's kind of like Vinny Del Negro, where this guy should never be employed again. I think it's a case of, Byron Scott should get another head coaching job. It's just a case of where he ends up. Maybe Houston's a good fit for him. I mean, there's going to be situations where...
no. More like Brooklyn.
Ouch.
Something like that. But, Houston.
No, I like what you're saying, though, Brad. Bring Vinny Del Negro to the Lakers.
Let's hope, let's hope not for Jinno's sake.
No thanks.
Just for
No
sanity.
thanks.
Yeah.
Bring DeMar DeRozan.
No thanks. Okay, another news tidbit here happened in the past couple of days. News that perhaps guys like Andre Drummond, Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan will be really, 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 really happy about, because Adam Silver has said that he's
hired them shooting coaches.
That he's looking into, or the NBA should implement a rule against the hack-a-shack rule. So basically, specifically these 3 guys, Drummond, Dwight, DeAndre, will not be intentionally fouled. They don't know exactly what's going to happen yet, but it will not be intentionally fouled.
Well, that's bad for TV. Silver's doing this for business reasons. I mean, it's not competitive reasons. It's clearly business reasons.
Everything Adam Silver is supposed to do is for business reasons.
Yes, he's doing his
job. I like it. Mo Twister, I know you hate this, but I love it. I don't know what the specific rule is going to be, but the less we have of this hack-a-shack stuff, the better for the quality that we get to watch.
I agree to a certain extent. What I would like to see is a rule that doesn't baby these guys so that they don't learn how to make free throws. That's my only issue. If you want to make a rule regarding the watchability of the show and the game, and because this is kind of just killing ratings, I get it. I have no qualms about that. My problem is, please don't spoil these brats anymore about them not working on fundamentals. It has nothing to do with their size, just all effort, concentration, at least in my opinion, because there are guys who are plenty tall that can hit these free throws. These guys are lazy, and I just don't want to empower that.
Wow, lazy, huh? Ouch.
Adam Silver, they did the calculation, and they said that the hack-a-shack fouls add about 11 minutes to an NBA game.
Oh, that's awful.
And Silver wants to keep NBA games shorter than 2.5 hours.
Yeah, they should. That's a great milestone right there. I agree with that.
All right, so
let's see what happens, man. I mean, Silver's doing the right thing. I mean, his whole point as commissioner is to address the issues that the league has, and this is clearly an issue the league has.
So are we going to
it's not going to change.
Are we going to see more and more players not being able to shoot free throws?
It depends what the rule is, and I hope the rule doesn't
and how it's
just
enforced and all of that.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just hope it doesn't kind of spoil them. That's what I just don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Why can't these guys just shoot underhand like Rick Barry? Come on, shoot underhand. It doesn't emasculate you.
Wait,
It's
Chris,
about winning the game.
What was your quote about intentionally fouling Wilt Chamberlain? What was the
Oh
quote
yeah,
there?
so Rod Thorne says Rod Thorne was asked how come they didn't hack-a-shack Wilt Chamberlain when he played. He said because Wilt would have punched him in the face.
Yeah, sure. No, that's probably right. That's a boxer there. All right. Anyway, we got to get out of here. I want to thank all the people that interact with us on our social media account. It's at Full Court Report. Keep that going, man. We love hearing from you guys. We'll go around the room right now. Final word, maybe a throw out to your account as well, and then we'll call it a night tonight. Jinno, start with you in Manila.
It's at Jinno RUFINO, JINNO Twitter and on Instagram. And I apologize for my bedroom voice for the entire episode.
Oh, it's all right.
Hey, it's sexy, man. Keep it up.
Absolutely. Brad in Australia.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at @BackpackBaller, and unfortunately my tweeting, whatever you want to call it, has dropped off a little of late, just like DeMar DeRozan's jump shot, but it'll be back strong soon, so just watch out for that.
And Chris.
As always, at Not Bill Wallen, and you can hit me up on my personal Twitter at Savage Sarcasm. I love it. I'm going to put some more tweets out there, which I haven't been doing. So just follow it for the playoffs. I should be all over it.
And welcome back, Mo. I know you're pumped.
Yeah,
about that game
thanks.
with
Mo, welcome back.
I completely forgot that I was on. I was not on the episode last time. It's kind of a busy week here for me, but absolutely, let's wrap it up tonight. Game of Thrones needs to be watched, so let's get to that. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, DJ Mo Twister. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you to our staff for another episode. We'll see you in our next one on Wednesday night, U.S. time. In the meantime, enjoy the NBA playoffs. Bye, everybody.
Deuces.